and welcome to a brand new Fiber TV podcast where we'll be giving you an insight on all things film and broadcast from the perspective of young journalists like ourselves. We're your hosts. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Danesha, and welcome to The Rundown. On today's Rundown, we'll be getting into the new school year, upcoming competition, and a behind-the-scenes look of our Fiber TV program. Let's get into it.
So Danesha, how are you feeling about starting our senior year?
I'm so excited. It's our last year. It's a bittersweet moment, but there's a lot to look forward to this year. What are some activities you can name that are coming up?
I think that we're starting our first day of senior year tomorrow, last first day of school, and it's surreal to think that this chapter of our lives is coming to an end basically. And just I'm so excited to really connect with my class this year, connect as a group, and just spend all these last few moments together, because I feel like that's super important. We kind of got a taste on with that in Senior Sunrise.
Yeah. There's gonna be many more activities where it's gonna be our last, and we'll definitely treasure things like Coco, Grad Bash, Senior Breakfast. But I think for Fiber TV and any TV production program out there is looking forward to STN this year.
Yeah.
New location Tampa.
I know.
It's super exciting.
It's crazy to think about that it's gonna be our last time going to STN with this group. And I keep thinking this is gonna be one of the last times that this exact group of people are gonna be in the same room competing.
Yeah.
So it's just it's such a bittersweet feeling to me, at least, because it's I love what I do. I love being in high school. I love being in this program. So it's kind of sad that it's coming to an end. But I'm also excited for what is coming up this year.
Completely. I'm so excited to trade in leather jackets for cooler cooler clothes now. And not only that, but the stories we're gonna get there. It's just new location, new vibes. It's pretty exciting to look forward to.
Going from California to being here in Florida, I think it's gonna be a completely different vibe, but in a good way. I don't think that we should be stressing about it or anything. It's just a new environment, new stories, what you said, new outfits.
And speaking of this new branch of Fiber TV podcast, I'm excited. It's a new way to engage with the audience and just kind of relate to people, say what's not really said.
Yeah.
Debrief.
I agree.
Yes.
It's a way to talk about the things that we go through, the things that we do in a program in Florida, on a TV production program, that not many people talk about, not many people kind of relate to what we do except other programs. So this is kind of why we wanted to do this podcast, as a way for all of us, for all different schools and everyone who's listening, to kind of relate and have a conversation about what we do, the competitions that we do, the shows we do, the equipment that we use, and what it's like to work in the TV production, broadcast, and film industry.
It's true, the hustle that we put into, and we're just kind of very overlooked, especially in school. It's just a program and a branch that we do so much, day and night, it consumes us, yet it's kind of overlooked. So I hope this can show, our audience, the behind the scenes of what we do to get stuff done and how do we perfect it,
I agree. And I think that with the rush that is, every single day, every single school year, because I feel it goes by so fast.
Completely.
And being in a program like this makes it go by even faster.
Yeah.
Because it's you always have a show to film, you always have a package to film, you always have we have Fright Night, we have Film Fest. There's so many dates set in stone already that it's it goes by so fast. So this is kind of a place where we could come and just talk about what is what we're going through, talk about the process of things, talk about just a place to kind of debrief and let out all of that, what we're experiencing.
Yeah, and should we tell them what to look forward to in the rundown?
Yes. So we are going to be having about 4 segments every single episode. So they will be called the Spotlight, Tech Talk,
behind the scenes with Fiber TV, and potentially some interviews from people from the industry.
Exactly.
To give, a little pitch.
Yeah.
We might have some guest stars.
Yeah, we want to have some guests to kind of come in and talk about what their perspective is on everything. We want to have equipment reviews where we talk about cameras, audio equipment, lights, literally anything that we use on a day-to-day. We want to also talk about kind of a behind the scenes of our program and what we go through.
Yeah.
and how that like affects us and how we manage that, and competitions and the process of submitting, the process of
digitals, challenges, fall, winter, all kinds of national stuff. So
I think that it's gonna be a really good year, a really good way to kind of bring this part of our lives to other people, and just a way to another form of expression for us, truly.
I think definitely as seniors we can give that like summary, that like whole, or like that look, generalizing our whole experience with it, and just like telling upcoming journalists, like people that want to come into the broadcast programs and just want to get a like hint of it or even know what it is, like of how I'm very grateful, super grateful of what it's taught me, the opportunities it's giving me, and you know, it's something that we're always cherish with us being in this program. So
I think it's also going to be something that we can look back at and think like, wow, this is something that we did, this is something that we experienced, and like what we learned from this, it's gonna be great. So I think that we should go over to our first segment of the day, Tech Talk.
Yes, so TED Talk is going to be a quick review of an equipment. You'll see what we're going to get into later on, and just kind of talk to you about it, break it down, like what it's useful for. So let's get into it. Sarah, what do we have in front of us?
So today for Tech Talk, we're going to be reviewing the Canon T7.
Yes.
So these cameras are kind of like a starter camera, I would say. But what we really want to talk about today is how these cameras, which are considered kind of like basic, I would say, can really do so much for you if you learn how to use it and if you put in the work. So
yeah, definitely these are some startup cameras that I started with. We started with our sophomore years. Wouldn't label it as beginners, but it's like it's a basic like camera to learn
it's very easy
the buttons
to use
with. And once you get the gist of this, you easily can get a gist of other cameras like Sony's by knowing where buttons are. But you know, definitely it's like such a camera to learn. It's a guide for like.
So let's get into them. We're gonna be grabbing each our cameras, and our specific kits have the base of the camera. We have a charger and the charger base.
Very easy to charge too. Nothing
a zoom lens. This is a 18 to 55 millimeter, and then we have a 50 lens.
50, very useful, especially in the broadcast world when we want to get that nice and blurred background shot for packages, anchor shots. It's definitely like a staple.
Yeah, I want to talk directly about kind of when I started using this camera. So my sophomore year joining this program, I remember we had to do our sophomore docs. So our end of the year project was to create a documentary, and I remember purchasing this exact camera. And I asked my parents. They said like it took a little convincing because it was like, oh, like obviously like it's an investment.
Yeah.
But I remember purchasing it, and I was so excited when it came in the mail. Like I was just excited to have like something of my own, even though like people consider it to be like whatever, just not the best camera in the market. Like I was just excited to have something that like is my own, that I could use and just bring whenever I needed.
Yeah, me too. Especially me working at Menchie's last summer. Like this was worth 2 paychecks of mine. I brought my tripod, I brought my hard drive that summer. I brought like everything of my own, hard drive, and then in my camera. Obviously, it didn't come with the 50, but I bought my Canon T7, and it was like I finally have something of mine.
Yeah,
you know, at home you get to kind of use it because you're always like renting out, borrowing here. But it was like so exciting when I first got this.
Yeah, I agree.
But regardless of like what you have, guys, like always remember, there's some people that definitely aren't like available to have these kinds of cameras, and it's like a privilege too. But it doesn't matter like what you do, like what you film with. Some people just use a phone, and you know what I mean. And it doesn't matter what you use; it's what the outcome like comes out with, like what you put together, your creativeness, and you know what I mean. Like it's just. It doesn't have to be all fancy equipment because not everyone has like the privilege of having
exactly.
Like that.
I think that exact project that I was talking about, our sophomore docs, are the perfect example of that, because it's kind of like one of our beginner projects that we do. Not necessarily beginner, but one of like the underclassmen projects that we do, and we all use these cameras for it, and we could. I feel like as a class we created such good projects, such good content, and it doesn't matter what equipment you use. It's just a matter of your shots, the way that you set up your interview, and just kind of how, like, if you learn how to use a camera, it could be really great. And even with the phone, we also started using phones like freshman year. And
yeah, don't feel behind if you didn't get a chance to learn a Canon. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
I feel like you can do with what you have and still create such great content, and this is like the perfect example of that.
Completely.
Even with the wing, which is one of our shows, we use these cameras all the time.
Yeah.
You use a 50. It's important to have great lighting. It's important to have like the correct settings and stuff, but you can create such a nice shot no matter what equipment you have.
And also don't feel intimidated. Like equipment, like the bigger it looks, like the scarier, like, you know, back when I saw like boom mics, like that was just like scary to me. But just don't feel afraid to ask someone who knows. Like, you know, it's practice makes perfect, and you know, you're not gonna get things the first time, but.
And I feel like it also really helps. When I first got my camera, I like searched up on YouTube a bunch of tutorials of like how to work your f-stop in your camera and your exposure and the ISO and everything. It just kind of, once you get the hang of it, you can kind of learn how to use it as a whole. But I think that this camera is great just like for that beginner like learning aspect of it, because you're able to just play around with all the settings that have to do with setting up a shot and using a camera in a very simplified way.
Yeah, this definitely can like set you up for any other DSLRs. Like this, knowing this already can like, oh, if you're navigating a Sony, if you're like navigating any other camera, you just know the buttons. Oh, this is definitely here, this and that. Like it's just a very stable.
I think overall, I'm just really thankful that we get to just have all this equipment and use all this equipment. And no matter what it is, it's just more of like taking the time to learn and just thinking about your shots, and you can do anything with any sort of camera. But I think that's kind of it for what we wanted to talk about with these cameras.
Get into our next segment,
which is gonna be the challenge, where we talk about all things having to do with competitions. So let's get on to that.
Let's go. Well, Sarah, aren't you excited for this year? Not only is it our senior year, but there's a lot to do and a lot to get into. And especially competitions coming around the corner this fall.
Exactly.
Which one's to name?
So some dates to look after. We have August 26th, FSPA States Fall Digitals. The prompts are released. So August 26th is the prompt release. Then September 16th are Quick Turns prompt release. And September 20th, everything is kind of due. So yeah, exactly. So we have, again, the 26th is when the state's fall digitals prompts are released. Then we have that deadline for those videos is September 20th. Then quick turns are released the 16th and also are due the 20th. So this is all for FSPA states. So kind of let's talk about what that's like, that's been like for us past years. It
gives the opportunity definitely for people that are in yearbook photography to kind of branch out and like do something in their own category, not only just like behind the camera but writing. There's a lot of poetry competitions, hype video, sports,
it's a little
design,
bit of everything.
Art. It's like a good way to kind of summarize performing arts and just have all these different submissions. That allows people to
FSPA tends to do that a lot, where it's not only like video, but there's also like that writing aspect that you were talking about. There's like the yearbook aspect of it. But I think that for us as a program, it also gives us like in the beginning of the year a chance to kind of meet the upcoming classmen that are coming into the program. So in the past, I've gotten to work in groups with kids that maybe I'm not too like familiar working with, but you kind of are able to find these relationships and these ways to working with new people through competing in these competitions.
Completely. And just like bringing in middle schooler to get the gist of these competitions and how we divide groups, you know, no matter like the grade, we just kind of go a little bit everywhere. And things can get rushed, chaotic, and stressing, but like through the midst of all of it, we learn as we go. Like we learn how to do things, we learn what not to do next. Like it's always like a trial and error between like people you work with. Let's name some of the stuff that we've competed in.
So last year during Quick Turns, I competed specifically on hype video. So to kind of explain, if you guys don't know what Quick Turns are, it's you have, so for example, this year is from September 16th through September 20th. So in this case, we have what, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You have 5 days to kind of put together the video that you're competing in. So when the prompts are released, you kind of
just get to working.
Exactly. You
what
have
was
those
our first like project together? We did quick turns and it was really fun. It was like a whole short film.
Yeah, that was for SCN challenge.
It
that
was
we did,
for SCN, but it was still that same like 5 day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So with those like 5 day time periods of competing, I say that kind of the best way to get at it is already have your group plans, already know what category you want to compete in.
Yeah.
So last year, for example, I already knew that I wanted to compete in hype video, and I already had kind of like my group set in stone. But once that prompt kind of like released, we already knew like, let's get to working, let's get to planning, let's do this and that. And I remember we were at one of my friend's house just editing till super late, like on a school night. That's what quick turns are about. I feel like we're all going to sleep late every single night of those 5 days.
You're meeting up every day, you're filming every day, like it's a non-stop grind.
It's also like an after school thing, because it's not like we could just not go to school during the daytime. We have to kind of manage our time really well. So that's kind of like a really big tip that I would give, is just plan a lot for these quick turns, and just kind of manage your time as much as you can, because realistically you think 5 days is a long time, but it's really not. Like you want to take up as much of that time that they give you to kind of produce the best quality content that you can produce.
And be ready for like mishaps. Be ready for like, oh, we're missing an equipment where this person can't come. Like be ready for things like that, because in 5 days of a competition, you can't like, oh, we have to skip a day of production. Like, no, you know what I mean? And especially depending like your category, if it's commentary, broadcast show opening, hype video, film, like there's a bunch of things here that all depending on what you're doing is like how early you need to think of your filming and production.
Yeah. And I think that with digital, so that kind of going from the quick turns to the more digital submissions, I think it gives a chance to everyone in the program to be able to submit something that they like. Because there's so many more categories as well. And you have such, like, we literally have, again, from, where are my dates? We have from August 26th to September 20th. So that is such a lot. It's almost a whole month.
To get a chance to
like compete in something that you like. So I think as a program kind of like giving the opportunity to anyone and everyone who wants to compete to have that chance to do so.
Things like commercial, feature package, nat package, there's just like PSA, different stuff that like, oh, I might like, if you're inclining to this one, like, oh, I'm a little better here. Or even like photography. Sometimes we like submit a picture and we're not even a photography club. We just submit pictures, or like if you're a writer, like maybe like a script, poem, poetry, anything you want to submit. Just gives us a good chance to kind of branch out and be able to.
And I think with that also, like, it helps us to practice for the bigger competitions in the sense of like going to FSPA over in Orlando this year, SCN in Tampa. It's kind of like it gets us in that mood. It gets us in that kind of aspect of like getting back into that grind. So I would really encourage everyone who can to submit as much as they can. Because
getting those titles feels so rewarding. No matter best of the best, off Florida, or even like an honorable mention, like it's like a title you're winning for what you did.
And I think it's a really cool opportunity that everybody should really take the chance to participate in. So let's get into our next segment of the day.
Well, for our next segment, we're gonna be getting into the behind the scenes of Firebird TV. So this is exclusive details of what we do, like a little insight where you can only find it on the rundown. So don't be telling your friends. Have your friends come here and watch our episodes. So
exactly. So to kind of just introduce what our program is, so Firebird TV, I kind of want to talk about this year's Court and Cabinet. So we have Angeline Martinez as our president. We have myself as the vice president. We have Valentina Torres as head of film, Tanesha Gonzalez as head of broadcast. We have Alec Blanco as our chief editor. We have the lead producers for all of our shows. So to kind of get into what our shows are about, do you want to just kind of talk about our shows?
So to kind of go from little to big, we have The Flare, which is our live shows, which is Monday through Thursday. The Rise, which is every Friday, our weekly shows. It's more of a mature approach to shows, kind of. And then we have The Wing, our social media show.
That's an everyday thing.
Upcoming, stay tuned, The Spark. And And what else do we have?
The Spotlight is our middle school show,
which
exactly.
Is their weekly, every other Thursday kind of show. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a little like routine situation. Exactly. And then The Rundown, which is a new podcast. So, yeah.
Yes, so the lead producers for The Wing this year are Ryan Aleman and Bailey Garcia. For The Rise, we have Luca de la Hoz. And for The Flare, which is our daily, we have Janice Grullon and Juliana Guerra. Our treasurer and head of fundraising, who work hand in hand to kind of help us with merch, help us with fundraising, help us with ticket sales for all of our film festivals and
fundraising.
Exactly. All of that are Sofia Pinto and Alessia Blashitz. And then our community events manager, which is kind of something new that we wanted to bring into our program this year, is Karina Loaiza, who is in charge of kind of looking at events near us and stuff that we can kind of cover, because I feel like that's such an important thing of bringing good stories to the content that we produce. So that's what we really wanted to do with our community events manager this year.
Completely. Not only like am I excited for like who were like freshmen in our eyes like 2 years ago step up to be producers for these like important shows, but you can tell this year we're kind of simplifying our jobs. You know what I mean? Like head of broadcast is also in charge of looking for competitions, Suncoast Emmys, and Valentina's in charge of like All-American, things like that. It's kind of simplifying everyone's job, because last year was just like, you know, everyone on their own in a way, but you know, we're all a team, we're all
I think kind of assigning roles like that also helps us like stay organized and stay on top of our stuff to kind of continue with the court and cabinet. We have our head of social media, Ingrid Paucar. We have our social media crew, so it's Mari Cepero, Nicolas Castillo, Paula Castillo, and Ryan Aleman.
To keep the feed cute.
Yes, our Instagram. And also having to do with The Wing, it kind of gets a little hectic since we post our episodes on the social media. So they kind of just go over that. We have our competition coordinators for each and every single one of the grades. So that just helps us kind of organize what we submit every single time we have fall digitals, like what we talked about today, or SCN Challenge, or anything like that. We have our equipment managers, and that's kind of how we organize ourselves in our program. I think it's really worked out for the past few years, but it's also more of like a trial and error. Every year when we finish a school year, we really sit down and think, what can we do to improve? How can we
adding new stuff, new roles?
Exactly. How are these new roles gonna like help us to kind of alleviate the pressure that we encounter throughout the year?
Completely.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell them what we've been up to this summer, what Fiber TV has been up to this summer?
So we kind of try to work on summer to kind of just, I think I'm a very strong believer of, if you stop doing something, if you stop practicing something, you're going to lose the hang of it. Like I do dance, and for example, with that, it's the exact same thing. If I stop practicing for
any sport,
2 to 3 months, it's the same. You're gonna lose the hang of it. So with EpiTV, it's the same exact thing. With making packages and doing shows, you lose kind of that like constant grind.
Yeah, the grind.
So we like to just have projects in the summer that allow us to not lose kind of that.
And what are the projects that we did?
So we have
Evergreen package.
Yeah, we do a package, and we do something having to do with our competition teams. So a practice with our individual groups, and I think that kind of has worked out for us in the past. We get to review our projects in the beginning of the school year and kind of know what our weaknesses and strengths are in the beginning of the school year to work on. How was like your experience doing your summer stuff?
Like on their own during summer projects. It's kind of hard to find a story. Sometimes some people may know someone they know that works in some kind of industry or has a story to tell. But yeah, it was pretty hard this summer for me to try to find a story. Last year I did it about a dance student like who started doing private classes, and she started her own like little dance studio, and just kind of her business growing. But this year I did it on inflation, which is like funny how we took the news. Didn't you do like a
like the news story kind of
news story kind of angle?
I did it, but like I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I did it about inflation, just like inflation in Miami, which is kind of like a worldwide topic, but especially here in the city. Interviewed a store owner, interviewed a realtor. Got, that angle.
I think it gets us going for the school year. I participated in a summer program this summer, Miami Montage in the University of Miami. And I really want to get into what those summer programs are like. We're not going to get into this exact episode, but I think that just kind of gave a gist on what we're about And we're going to get into so many more details. This is only our first episode, so obviously we didn't want to give too much away yet. But I'm really excited for the school year and what this podcast is going to bring.
Completely. It's like
a little bit,
our little, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Gossip room. I think it's just it's great to just sit here and have a conversation about what we're doing. Yeah. So I think that's kind of it for today's episode. I had so much fun having this conversation with you.
A little Sarah.
And it's just great to talk about these things.
And just kind of have a moment of okay, what have we been up to this past week? What's coming up? Kind of get our mind situation.
But I'm super excited. So
I guess that wraps up our first episode of The Rundown. Stay tuned for so much more possible guest stars, more segments to come. It's just the start of a new era. New era.
And we're really excited. So thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned and bye.
Thank you. Bye.